Hi, everybody. Welcome to the MMAYO podcast. We're super excited to be here with you today. I'm Senpai Andrea. This is Senpai Chloe.
Hi, guys.
And Coach Laura.
Hi.
Thanks, guys, for being a part today. And so we're super excited to come and talk to you about the We Unite, Women Empowered Unite. But first, we're going to start with like an overarching theme of MMAYO and what we stand for and what our goal is in our community. And so MMAYO really stands for MMA Youth Outreach. And we're a nonprofit that is not just for this dojo, Two Knuckle Sports, but we are part of a bigger vision that we want to spread throughout our community, through the states, and then eventually we would like to be international in different countries. And our overarching theme is really to help unite families and empower people, and with a specific emphasis on children and families who are at risk. And what I mean by at risk is that these families can come from, different backgrounds. There might be some social injustices that have happened, or kids that have been adopted or don't have two parents in the home. It could be kids that are really struggling with behaviors, and maybe they're at risk for drugs in their future or at risk for running away. Maybe they suffer from depression. Maybe it's a mom who's suffered social injustices, maybe some domestic violence, or a male who has suffered domestic violence. Those are all at-risk people. And so MMAYO, our goal is to be able to bring those people together, use the mixed martial arts to help bring self-discipline, courage, self-defense, and help them to become the leaders in their community that they can really be, and maybe even change their path. If they're going down a certain path, we would like to help change their path, their direction, so that they can, become leaders in their community, and then ultimately leaders in their family, and then reach out to other people with help. So that's how MMAYO, that's how our focus is. And like I said before, we don't want to keep it just to ourselves. We'd like to spread it eventually worldwide. And so we have lots of different distinctions, and we're going to talk about some of those distinctions, and then we're going to go into the We Unite, what we specifically do. And so we have 4 distinctions right now of MMAYO. I should actually say 5. We do lots of free classes to the community. Like this weekend, we're doing a bully prevention class. That's free to the community, and we're doing that from ages 8 to 17. And then we have distinctions like our certain classes. We have the MMA Brotherhood community. We have the We Unite community. And then we also have the Young Warriors, that's ages 8 to 12. And then we have the Warriors, which is ages 12 to 17. And in those classes, we just really want to connect the community, make sure that these kids especially have the means for self-defense. They can prevent bullying, especially in this time in life. There's a lot of bullying going on. If you're watching the news or you're listening to your kids at school, you'll hear these things coming up. We want to make our kids strong. We want to make them courageous, and we want them to be self-aware. We want to prevent, kidnapping, trafficking, especially with our children. And then we want to pour that over into our women too. There's so many women that wouldn't know how to defend themselves if there was an attacker. You hear that on the news all the time. And so that's sort of the focus of We Unite, and then the MMA Brotherhood. I feel like that's the cornerstone of MMAYO. In my personal opinion, the guys might say something different, but the cornerstone to me is the MMA Brotherhood. We need strong men in our communities that are willing to stand up for their families. They're willing to stand up for other women. They're willing to be great leaders in the community, not to just their children, not to just their families, but they're willing to be strong leaders to other people in the community. And I think that starts with the MMA Brotherhood. And their classes look a lot different. I don't know if you know, but men have the highest the highest rate of depression, and they also have the highest rate of suicide over women. And so these men need community. They need a place where they can share their feelings. They need a place that they can release negative energy and then gain positive energy. And really, men don't have that same, camaraderie as women do. We like to get together. We like to socialize. You don't really have to talk us into, feel goods.
Oh yeah, totally.
Right? So that's sort of the overarching thing for the MMA Brotherhood. And so we're going to dive right into what we do, because obviously we're women and we don't go to the MMA Brotherhood, right? Nor would we want to. We have our own. Exactly. And so this is my daughter, by the way. This is Chloe.
Hi, guys.
And I just want to say that we're about improving lives and uniting families. And so I'm super honored to be here with Chloe today. And we all have testimonies. We all have, something to say about how we got here. How do we end up being in the We Unite self-defense classes? And so I'm going to turn it over to Chloe to introduce herself and then to give us a background. Like, how did you get started?
Yeah.
What brought you here?
All right, so I'm Senpai Chloe. I'm one of the instructors here. Originally, I got to two-knuckle sports because I needed a job and just needed to be out of a crappy position. So I came here with my family. They had already started with the dojo, so introduced me, and then I got thrown into belting, learned how to do some self-defense, and then from there we just kept going and kept growing in that. So still here, haven't moved since. And then became part of the MMAYO We Unite.
Yeah, awesome. And what about you?
Similar story, actually. You two are my neighbors. So when they started the entire We Unite program, Senpai Andrea mentioned to me that we should come and check it out. It is an amazingly positive experience. I am an Air Force veteran, and I have never felt more confident to be able to walk from the grocery store at night alone and not be afraid.
Wow, I've never heard you say that.
The
That's
military
pretty cool.
does not teach you self-defense. This is a completely different situation, and we teach, or you guys teach, easy and simple techniques to be able to get away from an attacker.
Yeah, that's our goal. What I love about the We Unite, too, is that it is a class for women taught by only women, which makes a big difference, doesn't it?
When you have trauma in your background from a male, it can make it extremely difficult to have a male do some of these moves.
Yes. So that's kind of our goal, is that we are taught by women to help bring confidence. So a lot of classes that do self-defense, you'll see that there's a male present. I'm not saying that we'll never have males present, but that's as you grow in our classes and as you grow in our self-defense, it's always good to have a male a part of that self-defense because it feels different, right?
I find in this environment too, when we have had the males there, it's a controlled environment.
Yes.
So it does help if you get triggered. And there are women around to help you if you get triggered.
Yes, definitely. And it's not something we do right away.
No.
Yeah.
This is,
You grow
I've
into
been
that.
in class for 6-8 months.
Yes,
Yeah. And the males have only been there one time.
that's right. And
And
only
it's-
for the ones that were ready.
Right. It's an optional. If you don't
Yes.
feel ready, you never have to deal with that aspect of it.
Yeah. So that brings me to my next question. What do you ladies love about We Unite? Like, what would, if you were talking to somebody, what would be your pitch? Like, why do they need to be here? Is it a need? Is it a you can come if you want to? Or
I feel like it's a need. I believe that every woman should have a knowledge of how to at least escape if an attacker is coming. It's such a common issue.
yeah,
And most of us have no idea.
true. So what do you love about it? What would you say you love about the class?
I like that we are building up endurance because most people are not aware that your endurance has to be there to fend off an attacker for the time you need it because your
Yeah.
adrenaline is going to drain. So I like that part. We're building up endurance.
Yeah, that's a good one. What about you, Chloe?
Yeah, I think it's both need and want. So I feel like you need to know how to defend yourself, and you also want the belonging that comes with the We Unite. So being in a place where you can be vulnerable, safe, and be able to share your own testimony, because everybody comes from a story. And so being able to share that story with people, and then also being able to learn how to defend yourself at the same time is something so important. So it's both need and a want.
Yes, I'd
So
agree.
yeah, so personally for me, I love the fact that I can feel strong there, feel the powerfulness in it, and then also just have my community of people.
Yeah. So would you say that you feel stronger? You've come, your size was an obstacle when you first started, just with Nikito Kai. We hadn't even started the Wii yet. But what was some of the obstacles that you thought, there's no way I can even do this. There's no way.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is in my own head too. So, I came with a lot of health issues, one of them being asthma. I grew up not working out. So I wasn't super strong, didn't have the endurance for it. And that just came mental challenges as well, thinking that I would not be able to overcome some of these things, or I wouldn't be able to last as long as other people do. So those are definitely obstacles, and feeling, like powerless and that, but it also gives you the confidence that you need. Like, even if you can't go as long as everybody else, you get the confidence that you need to feel like you can actually do something like this and outlast it.
Yeah, that's good. What about you, Coach? What are some obstacles you had to overcome to even get to this place?
So I have depression, anxiety, and rheumatoid arthritis.
Oh, yeah.
So there's mental blocks and there's physicality in my joints. And I was really concerned that I was not going to be able to do any of it. And at first we did have to modify a few things.
Yes.
Due to my neck and my back. But I've found out that the longer I do this, the better I feel. My joints don't hurt anymore. I'm not depressed. I'm not anxious all the time. I can go in public and not have a panic attack. I feel safe.
That's a huge testimony, actually.
It's a big deal for me. When you're 5 foot tall, you feel like everybody's bigger than you and you're scared all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not scared anymore.
I think that's a good word for people who are listening that are thinking, I don't know if I could do this. I'm not sure if I'm cut out for this. What about age? Mine came with age as a factor. I'm way older than both of these ladies. And, obviously this is my kid, but no, you're not old enough to be my kid. Thank God. Okay.
Oh.
But still, age was a factor for me. And when I was looking out, in our dojo and watching, people.
All of those young kids.
Yes. And so my first thing was, I'm so out of shape. I can't even do this. There's no way. Mm-hmm. And then I just have to tell you guys a funny story. So a few weeks ago at our Women Empowered class, I was teaching a self-defense. I don't even remember who it was, but whoever the lady was, I was talking to her and she said, yeah, you just make it look so easy. And I know that you just have so much mixed martial arts background and I don't have any. And then I had to laugh out loud, like, oh my gosh, if you only knew there. I don't have mixed martial arts background. If you consider watching Bruce Lee when you're 7 background in mixed martial arts, then I guess I have a lot of it. But I never had any practical knowledge of mixed martial arts. And so today, though, my confidence is better, the way I carry myself. And I was already pretty confident, but I wasn't confident in self-defense.
Totally.
I wasn't confident in grappling, especially with guys. I wasn't confident in if something happened to me, what would I do to be able to defend it?
Right. Just knowing the technique behind it and practicing it over and over and over again, it's set in my brain. If someone comes at me, I know what to do.
Yeah, for sure. And we had that happen too, didn't we, Chloe?
Oh, yeah. At the store.
Yeah, what happened?
There was a man in the aisle that approached us very quickly.
And we were alone. Set the scene. It was late at night.
Yes, it was late at night, like 10:30 at night.
We were in the deodorant aisle. There was nobody around.
There was nobody around, hardly anybody in the store. And there was a man who approached us very, very quickly. And just knowing what we know from doing these classes, my mom actually took a step backwards with her hands up, like, whoa, like, stop. And his reaction, reading our body language, he immediately stopped where he was at and spoke from there what he was trying to say to us. But later on actually approached a friend of ours the same way. And she did not know, to stop and to back up from it. So he just kept approaching her and going faster until... all of that
she felt really uncomfortable. Yeah, she said she was really nervous, and so some of that paid off, right? And Chloe said immediately, oh my gosh, I've never seen that in action. And so that's the benefit of doing these classes and repping them constantly. It starts to sink in, like Coach Laura was saying. Yeah, it's a habit now. Yeah. And so a couple other things that I want to add that I really love about this is that I'm surprised at the ladies who come in that have a lot of experience with trauma. Maybe they've had, they've been violated some way, somehow. They have been there's been domestic violence. We have a situation of kidnapping. Yep. And these ladies look just like us, right? They hold themselves. You can't tell.
Who has what trauma.
Correct. And so one of the things that we've learned about this in the podcast, in the class, and that we're going to talk today on the podcast, is that a lot of people get help for their trauma. They do, they get mental help. They see somebody, a psychiatrist or a counselor, and they work through it mentally. A lot of these ladies who've come in have done spiritual counseling, and they've worked through it with whatever their faith or their belief is. Mm-hmm. But what we've noticed is that when the women come on the mat and they've experienced these kind of traumas, they've never done the physical healing. And so they think they're good until we do a self-defense that triggers that point of trauma. Mm-hmm. And then they realize they've never cleared their trauma physically. They've done a ton of work mentally and spiritually,
but not in their body work.
Not in their body. And our body has memory to trauma.
Oh, and it surprises them all the time.
They're shocked, right?
They thought they had worked it all the way through. Yes. Every time I've seen someone triggered on the mat, they're surprised.
Totally surprised. And what I've heard from some of the feedback from the ladies on the mat, that have come and told us that they've said that they were shocked, that they thought that they had cleared all the emotions of it. And the minute something happens physical, they have rewound themselves to that trauma. And the funny thing about trauma is that you play the trauma over and over and over in your head. You do it mentally, spiritually, and physically. And you think of ways like, how could I have gotten out of this situation? What did I do? How could I do it differently? And until you learn how to do it differently, the record or the, whatever's on repeat is always negative. And then we come and teach you the positive. And so we've actually worked with women who have told us the details of their trauma, and we've reenacted it and empowered them, we've empowered them to escape positively and get out of the position that they were once in.
Yeah, and with that, we've had some of the women who have done that, it like replays their story. So it's no longer a mental block that is blocking them. They no longer have to replay that over and over again, trying to figure it out. They finally know now how to get out of that situation. And so it just changes their whole entire story of their trauma and like what they can do and how, you don't have to be this weak person. You can turn it around.
Yes.
I feel
definitely.
Like it breaks through their trauma. Knowing they can do this in a positive environment it helps to break that victim mentality and turn it into a survivor mentality.
Yes, I love that.
That's what we want. We want survivors.
Yes, that's a good word. Breaks the victim mentality and turns it into survivor mentality. And then I want to take it a step further, even an overcoming mentality.
Exactly.
Yeah, it empowers them to know if they were ever in a situation like that again, they would know what to do and they wouldn't freeze.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because freezing is a big issue
Sure.
with trauma.
Yes. And I think a lot of women freeze, right? So we have the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, right? Fawn would be like someone who's in love with their
Stalker
or
justifies
something.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
justifies it. So a lot of women will fawn, but a lot of people freeze.
Well, I feel like too, I don't know about the younger generations, but when I was growing up, we were taught that women needed to be a little meek.
Yeah.
Like you didn't need to stand up for yourself. That was not something that was common.
Right.
We need to learn that we can stand up for ourselves. We can stand up for ourselves and not be cruel about it. We can do it in a positive way.
Right. And we can still be feminine doing that.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you could be bad. Like, that's all I'm saying.
All at the same time.
All at the same time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right, Chloe? Would you agree? Add anything to that?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, totally. Like, we can do all of those things and then find a way to, like she said, like become survivors and no longer have to victimize ourselves in it.
Yeah.
So, absolutely.
And so how does that make you feel as a mom? I mean, I'm a mom of 11. I have 11 children aging from 29 to 10. And I just have to say, I have been super traumatized. I don't mind sharing part of my story, but I've been super traumatized. It's sort of how We Unite was birthed.
Yeah.
And so when I was 13, I was robbed in my own home by gunpoint. And we lived in a really nice neighborhood, all of that stuff. And I was only 13. And my dad just happened to come home while the robbers were there. And I hid. And it was this big traumatic thing for me. They ended up catching them, but it was by gunpoint. And then when I was about 16, 17, I had a stalker for about 2 years. And he would, we lived in a really remote area. And he would wait for me in my house until I got home. And he would always have an exit. He would have an entrance and an exit. And I don't know if maybe he was working up the gumption to maybe stick around. But generally, when I would walk through the door, he would get scared and he would run. But that was about 2 years. So imagine the fear it built in me.
Of 2 years of trauma.
2 years
steady
of
trauma.
Stalking, yeah. And he would never be there. Like, my parents were never home when this happened. He knew my car, all of the stuff. So I had to escape a lot of trauma to get out here and start actually learning some things. And it wasn't until I was testing and I was invited into the cage to do some sparring with one of the senseis here.
On her birthday, no less.
On my birthday, yes. And afterwards, I literally cried for 3 days. Because I felt so weak. Yeah. I felt like I couldn't have defended myself if I wanted to. Obviously I wasn't a kickboxer and I've never sparred before and it was my first time. Those are the obvious things. But what was stuck in my head was if I was in the street and someone came up to me, I would be a total victim. There's no way I could get out of it. And so as a mom, I spent years terrified. If my husband was not home, I would be terrified if I heard a noise, if there was somebody outside, because I just didn't know what I was going to do with myself. And so these classes for me I'm no longer scared. Yeah. I'm not saying I want to be in that position. I'm just saying I'm not scared. I'm not terrified.
You could handle it.
That's right. And it has built enough confidence in me that I would be able to defend myself and protect my children. Mm-hmm. How do you feel?
So being a military spouse, deployments, every time he would leave for 6 months, 8 months, whatever it was for, I slept with one eye open, essentially. You're scared nonstop.
Yeah.
because I didn't have the background and I would not have been able to defend myself or my boys. And I have boys. If I had girls, I would make sure they were in this class.
Yes.
I feel like every daughter needs to learn how to do this.
Yes, for sure. I agree. And we have some young daughters in our classes, but we also have the teens, and that's what the teens and what the
Young
warriors and the warriors are for, is that they can be among peers where they feel safe and confident, and in some cases,
absolutely.
yes, and in some cases we allow some of the moms and children's, if they've been part of a trauma together and they need to heal together, they come to the We
same
Unite
classes.
self-defense. Yes, definitely. And so the last thing I kind of want to talk about before we start wrapping up is the belonging piece.
Yes.
Feeling like this is a place that we can belong, and like really forming a community.
Yes.
So speak to that. What would you guys say?
So when we finish our classes, after we do all of the physical parts, we actually sit down and have what Senpai Andrea and Senpai Chloe call a mat chat. And we discuss not only all of the things that we liked or didn't like in class, or improvements that they think they could make. We actually leave the floor open. So if anybody wants to talk about anything, whether that's social media parts for children, like some of the parents, we wonder what we should do as far as social media with our kids. We talk about all kinds of things in the mat chat. Whatever you're comfortable with sharing, everybody's there to listen.
Yes. You want to add to that, Chloe?
Yeah. So, I mean, like we said earlier, everybody comes with a story. So all those women that enter the Met, definitely have a story in the background. So the Mat Chat is just a place for you to be vulnerable. And we notice some of the things, the hardships that you have on the mat. And so Mat Chat is just a place for you to be open, and this is like your safe zone for you to talk about what that trauma was, why it was so challenging for you, what were some of the breakthroughs that you got through today, and just things like that. So the community is a big part of it, is being able to have that safe place to share your story, have that safe place to open up to things that maybe you've never told anyone.
Yeah, that's good.
Right? Or if you're currently in a domestic violence, being able to speak on that and have somebody help you through that domestic violence and how to get out of it.
Yes, that's good. And we do that. The MMA Brotherhood does the same thing. They also have a mat chat where they talk at the end. It's a great place for the men to really share their emotions, feelings, whatever's going on. Especially for men, It's a little bit harder. For women, it's a little bit easier.
Whatever they have bottled up in there,
yes,
they can get it out.
Yes, which is so great. And sometimes we just don't feel safe enough to do it. But I think when the women start coming to the classes and they see that there's other people like them, or let me rephrase that, other people who have had shared experiences like them,
alone.
Yes.
Then they're not alone. And then they're able to open up and talk that through. And so I always like to end with asking, what did you love about the class?
Put some positivity in there.
Yeah, and then what was challenging about the class? Because it's challenging, right?
Oh, always.
It's physically challenging.
Yes.
There's always a mental or a physical challenge in every class.
Sure. And I've heard it before, like, oh my gosh, I feel weak. I feel like I can't kick hard. I can't. And so we do a lot of repetition so that the strength comes, the form comes, the technique comes.
Yeah.
And then the women really feel empowered by it.
Yeah, and I think confidence has a lot to play in that, because once you have that confidence built up, you're a beast on the mat.
Yes.
And
Right?
we've seen it.
We've seen the change in the women, specifically certain women out there who, once they got that confidence, the way that they do things is just so different.
So different.
So different. Like the way they hold themselves, the way they talk, the way that they do the physical things on the mat. It's just beast mode.
Yes.
Yep, they're hitting harder. They're
Absolutely.
moving more confidently.
Yes. Just the way they stand, the way they carry themselves. And then what's fun is that they start automatically, without prompting, helping the ladies that
need help.
And that's kind of fun to watch, that they just sort of move right into, hey, let me help you do this. Let me help you accomplish this. Yeah. So as we're wrapping up, what would you what would you say to somebody? What's your last thoughts, like, to help overcome obstacles? You know, what would you say to anybody who's listening to this and, you know, they're nearby us in the location? Some of the ladies that are even at the dojo watching their kids, and they are scared to get out on the mat. Like, what would you say to them?
I would tell them, give it a try. It doesn't matter your body size, shape, how old you are, how young you are. Come and try it. You're gonna love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say everybody comes in not knowing a thing, right? Everybody starts somewhere. We didn't know when we first started. We just jumped in there and had to do it. And you turn out to love it. So just jump in there and do it. Right?
Yes.
You don't have to have any sort of background. You don't have to know what you're doing. It's a process. You learn along the way. So just jump in and go for it.
Yeah, I would say it's a journey. Like Chloe said, we all started someplace. Never in a bajillion years had you have asked me, would I be in a mixed martial arts dojo doing mixed martial arts and, you know, leading a women's self-defense class. That was not on my radar.
No.
Not on the list at all.
Doing MMA at all was not on the
even
list
on the
at this
list.
age.
No. No, and I joke with my husband now. I say, oh, football. Psh, I'm a UFC girl now. So
That's right.
I'm in love with it. I mean, it is hard. It is challenging.
But I feel
It is
healthier
worth it.
now
And it's
than
so
I did
fun.
at 26.
Yeah, me too.
I feel much healthier.
Yes, me too, for sure. And it's so fun. And it's a
so
great
fun.
place to make friends. It's a great place for community. It's a great place to unite. And we just say, ladies, if you're listening to this, join us. Give it a try. If you risk nothing, you gain nothing. And so we just say, come, give it a try. Have some fun doing it. Don't be afraid, because we all start somewhere. And so we're inviting you to join our We Unite Women Empowered Self-Defense and Fitness class. So I hope you guys love this podcast, and make comments so we know, like, what subjects, if you're a woman and you're listening to this, what subjects would you like us to cover? What would you like to know? Would you like to see some self-defenses?
Also, ask questions.
If
you have questions, ask them.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks for joining. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.